I am deeply aware of this great inheritance and of the duties and heavy responsibilities.
In a move that has sent tremors across the British monarchy and beyond, King Charles III executed a midnight purge of Camilla's children that stunned observers everywhere. London, February 16th, 2026. The quiet of Buckingham Palace belied the magnitude of the decision. In a private and meticulously calculated act, the King signed a royal decree stripping Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes, the adult children of Queen Camilla, of every remaining royal privilege. Described by insiders as cold and deliberate as marble, yet sharp and cutting as a sword, the decree was finalised in the pre-dawn hours within the seclusion of Charles's private study, signalling a historic and unprecedented move within the royal family. No official announcement accompanied the decision, yet its effects were immediately visible. Tom and Laura's names vanished from recent court circulars. Access passes were suspended without explanation, patronages were revoked, and once open connections shuttered. The reality was clear. These stepchildren, long tolerated at the edges of royal life, had been decisively and irreversibly exiled from the corridors of power. While they had hovered around the institution for years, they had never truly belonged, and now the King drew a line none could ignore. This dramatic move comes in the midst of an ongoing wave of reform and symbolic consolidation in the House of Windsor. Just 3 weeks earlier, Charles had reclaimed Royal Lodge from his scandal-plagued brother, Prince Andrew, followed by a February 5th royal order that cut all financial privileges and title associations for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle after their unsuccessful bid to regain custody of Archie and Lilibet in the UK. Yet today's actions reach even deeper, representing the first time Charles has directly and publicly, though silently, acted against Camilla's side of the family. After years of criticism for perceived indulgence toward her children, the King had finally drawn a firm, unmistakable red line. One senior Palisade insider told The Telegraph, on condition of anonymity, "This isn't about William and Catherine anymore. This is about the sanctity of the institution and ending the era of unearned proximity to power." The immediate spark, a primetime February 16th interview on London Talks Tonight, where Tom and Laura appeared to promote a charity gala. What began as soft PR spiralled into thinly veiled attacks and, according to palace sources, an outright assault on succession itself. Tom, smirking under studio lights, dismissed Prince William as an actor rehearsing his role for public consumption, while Laura, wearing a sharp navy suit and bold crimson lipstick, remarked, "Catherine is polished, yes, but substance matters more than presentation. The monarchy doesn't need mannequins, it needs leadership." The segment went viral within hours. Hashtags like #ProtectTheCrown and #Exile trended, while traditional tabloids, such as The Express, excoriated the pair as parasites leeching off royal privilege. Broadsheets, including The Times, ran damning editorials calling on Charles to preserve the dignity of succession by removing anyone exploiting proximity to the throne. By midnight, an emergency assembly of senior royal advisers, including the Earl Marshal, Lady Penelope Wexham, the Lord Chamberlain and Sir Hugo Ellington of the Privy Council, drafted a communiqué urging Charles to act decisively. The advisers referenced the royal codes of affiliation, which forbid non-bloodline relatives from commenting on succession or state matters, and several invoked private warnings reportedly whispered by the late Queen Elizabeth II. Familiarity breeds corrosion. Those words circulated again over the weekend in reference to Camilla's children. A former courtier anonymously posted on X, "This should have happened years ago. Tom and Laura were always just outside the gates, but acting like they lived inside the throne room." Sources confirmed that Charles had long resisted drawing a line, honouring promises to Camilla for her family's emotional and political protection. But this time, the damage was irreparable. At 1:42 a.m. on February 16th, Charles summoned Tom and Laura to a private audience chamber. No staff, no secretaries, no press. Only one guard stood outside. Insiders described the encounter as glacial and clinical. There was no shouting, no dramatics, just silence heavy with consequence. Charles reportedly played the London Talks segment on an iPad and then delivered a single searing line. "You were guests of this institution, but you mistook the guest room for the throne." He then presented a sealed document stamped with the crimson royal seal. The document's contents were exhaustive. Revocation of access to all royal residences, including Clarence House, Sandringham and Highgrove, immediate suspension of all security details, effective 5 a.m. February 16th, removal from ceremonial guest lists for state events like Trooping the Colour, Commonwealth Day, Garter Day and Remembrance Sunday. Honorary roles such as Laura's art patronages and Tom's royal dining appointments were revoked. Diplomatic travel privileges, car access, and military airlift rights were cancelled. Any use of royal associations for commercial or media purposes, past or present, was prohibited. Significantly, the decree was backdated to February 10th, a day after Charles finalised full financial restrictions on Harry and Meghan, emphasising that this was strategic, not reactive. The next morning, the public awoke to the unmistakable smell of palace justice. Though Buckingham Palace offered no statement, Tom and Laura's erasure from charity rosters, ceremonial lineups, and guest lists spoke louder than words. Media outlets immediately sensed blood in the water. The Daily Clarion headline thundered, "Charles exiles Camilla's children as palace cleanse begins." For years, the stepchildren had floated along the fringes of royal life, leveraging unearned access for book deals and gallery promotions. Tom faced backlash for attempting to monetize palace cuisine with a book initially connected to Queen Camilla, while Laura was accused of using restricted archival artworks in gallery promotions without approval, sparking outrage among royal conservators. Even Queen Camilla herself was quietly reprimanded in 2025 by the Royal Advisory Council, although no public record exists. The warning had been clear: contain non-bloodline influence before it corrodes the crown. Tom and Laura disappeared from the public eye for a while, giving the impression the issue was settled, until February 16th reignited the scandal. Their timing was catastrophic. The public was still processing Charles' January severing of all ties with Harry and Meghan, including revocation of UK security privileges and royal housing. By publicly disparaging William and Catherine at that exact moment, Camilla's children were seen as sabotaging the monarchy itself, undermining a vision of streamlined, dignified leadership free from freeloaders. Royal historians and former political attachés weighed in. Sarah Kinsley commented, "What Tom and Laura did was spit on a ladder they never earned the right to climb." Sir Ian Bridgman added, "They mistook access for authority. That's a fatal mistake in monarchy." Public support was overwhelming. Ipsos UK polling revealed 79% approved the revocation of royal privileges, 84% felt Catherine was targeted unfairly, and 71% believed Charles should have acted sooner. Overnight, security staff were reassigned, pending invitations cancelled, and Camilla herself postponed appearances, leaving the palace silent, yet undeniably resolute. Within 72 hours, Tom and Laura were reclassified from extended family to liabilities, from guests to ghosts. Queen Camilla remained silent. In the intricate choreography of modern monarchy, every unspoken action carries weight across generations. King Charles's midnight edict was not a mere gesture of discipline, it was a deliberate reassertion of royal order. The message was encoded in silence. William and Catherine are no longer just heirs. They are the monarchy, present and future, and no outsider, not even family by marriage, will cast a shadow on that legacy. Insiders described Charles's mood after the London Talks interview as glacial, not volcanic. He neither raised his voice nor paced the chamber. Instead, he sat motionless in his Windsor armchair, replaying the segment over and over. Every time Laura dismissed Catherine as a polished mannequin, and every time Tom sarcastically compared William to a man rehearsing a legacy, Charles's jaw tightened, signalling the weight of unspoken judgment and the permanence of the decision he had just delivered. His eyes narrowed, hard and unyielding, as if the weight of the crown itself sharpened his vision. He reportedly told his private secretary in that moment, "This isn't commentary, this is contamination. Contamination requires quarantine. Immediate, total, and absolute." Yet this reaction wasn't sudden, nor born from a vacuum. For months, King Charles had been forced to shield William and Catherine not just from the distant storms stirred by the Sussex faction in California, but from insidious, closer threats emanating from Camilla's adult children. Palace records reviewed by the Royal Standards Committee reveal a quiet pattern of subversion. Since mid-2024, there were at least 9 documented instances in which Tom and Laura either leaked event details to sympathetic media outlets before embargoes were lifted, or attempted to insert themselves into charity boards and patronage activities that were traditionally aligned with the Prince and Princess of Wales. Royal estates, notably Raymill House and Balmoral outbuildings, were used for private receptions under the guise of family tradition, blurring the lines between privilege and authority. It had become a quiet war, confided a former aide to Lord Alderton. Charles was the last one hoping peace could hold, but William and Catherine had long since hit the ceiling of royal endurance. For decades, there had been a carefully cultivated myth that the marriage between Charles and Camilla represented personal redemption, a model of integration. Camilla's children, though non-royal by blood, were to be treated with grace, not as Windsor heirs, but as dignified extensions of the Queen Consort. That illusion, however, began to fracture in late 2025. The first visible crack appeared at the Royal Foundation's Winter Gala, when Laura Lopes was caught discreetly handing press kits to foreign correspondents to promote her new art book, Inside the Real Royal Eye, A Daughter's View. The content itself was largely harmless, yet the timing, optics, and presumption ignited fury within the Foundation's communications team. One senior official close to Catherine reportedly fumed. "It's always the same story. They drape themselves in the fabric of duty, but the seams show. Always. Every time." And then came February. On a live studio set, Tom and Laura spoke. Every fissure, every misstep became a canyon of outrage. Documents obtained by the Royal Gazette confirm that Charles's edict included provisions designed to shield William and Catherine from any further contamination, sealing security clearances and eliminating all opportunities for interference. Tom and Laura's names were stripped from active visitor rosters for Kensington Palace, Adelaide Cottage, and any estate under the Prince and Princess of Wales's patronage. They were prohibited from appearing at events where William or Catherine were primary patrons, unless explicitly invited by the Crown itself. Financial firewalls were imposed. Shared expense accounts tied to Queen Camilla's children were terminated. Previous reimbursements for travel or representation costs associated with Camilla's schedule were suspended retroactively to January 1st. A confidential memorandum circulated to the Royal Communications Office instructed all future press briefings to excise Tom and Laura from narratives about modern monarchy, continuity, or succession. In short, they were ghosted, structurally, institutionally, symbolically. And in doing so, Charles revealed the monarch many had long awaited: precise, uncompromising, and unafraid to erase distractions for clarity of vision. Ironically, the more Charles erased Camilla's children from the frame, the sharper and cleaner the portrait of the future became. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, emerged not bruised but venerated. Her poise in the face of public slander was widely praised. Editorials in the Times dubbed her the Iron Veil of modern royalty. William, meanwhile, was seen not as a passive heir, but as the moral compass of the firm, rising quietly through discipline and example rather than proclamation. Social media, a traditionally hostile landscape for the monarchy, unexpectedly became a stage of solidarity. TikTok videos under hashtags like #LongLiveCatherine surged past 60 million views within 48 hours. Even Gen Z commentators, previously skeptical of royal conduct, voiced support for the princess who shows up, smiles, and never missteps. One user posted succinctly, "Catherine is Britain." Charles's decision, analysts note, did more than protect his son and daughter-in-law. It amplified legitimacy by removing the noise. Behind the scenes, Princess Anne played a pivotal role. A palace source revealed, "Anne told Charles plainly, 'If you let this pass, you let the crown rot from within.'" Yet one voice remained conspicuously absent: Queen Camilla's. The woman once derided by tabloids as the other woman who had spent 2 decades securing her place beside Charles, enduring relentless scrutiny and institutional resistance, remained silent in the aftermath of her children's abrupt erasure. Her silence was deafening. Not a word to the press, not a whispered defense to allies, not even an intimate word to her husband. Immediately following the February 16th purge, Camilla cancelled 2 cornerstone engagements, a literacy award luncheon in Eastbourne, and a visit to a cancer treatment ward in Oxfordshire. Her private secretary attributed these absences to seasonal illness, but insiders confirm she was devastated. She wasn't simply hurt, she was hollowed out. One senior aide revealed, her world shifted in a single night. Charles didn't give her a chance to intervene. Multiple palace sources indicate she only learned of the final decree hours before it was signed. Though she had tried previously to guide her children away from the spotlight, she did not anticipate total exclusion. A scolding was possible. Institutional disappearance was unimaginable. Confined to her private suite at Clarence House, Camilla spoke only to her longtime dresser. When Charles returned that evening from strategy meetings with Princess Anne and Lord Alderton, they exchanged no words, just a long, measured nod, a glance conveying shared grief and deliberate restraint. For years, Camilla had walked a tightrope between loyalty to the crown and maternal instinct. She had never forced her children into the monarchy, but allowed them to bask in its glow at Sandringham and Balmoral. They had been guests of honour, often appearing at charity events and personal functions, but Charles's tolerance had limits, invisible, yet unyielding. When Tom and Laura publicly crossed them on camera, during one of the monarchy's most vulnerable moments, the king faced an impossible choice. Crown or consort. He chose the crown. This wasn't a betrayal, noted a historian close to the royal archives. It was a recognition that even love cannot compromise the line of succession. Yet the personal cost for Camilla is undeniable. Sources close to her describe a state of emotional limbo, not exile, not peace, but suspended between love for her family and loyalty to the institution. One former communications advisor remarked, "If Camilla speaks now, she risks everything. Any defense of Tom or Laura would undermine Charles's authority, threaten her own standing, and signal fracture within the monarchy, a risk she cannot take. Her silence is strategic, painful, and deliberate. Camilla understands the rules. She has witnessed Diana's anguish, Charles's rehabilitation, and the Sussex rebellion. She knows what leaks can do to public perception. Though she may ache privately, she refuses to fracture the institution she helped rebuild. Even her birthday portrait, released quietly on February 15th, tells the story. Camilla alone in a garden. No family beside her, no Charles, no regal symbols, only thorns behind her, and a distant, unreadable gaze. The atmosphere between Charles and Camilla has shifted. Ceremonial and cold, they still appear together at scheduled functions, exchange pleasantries. But the warmth once nurtured has dimmed. Staffers report Camilla now takes meals alone and shifts morning meetings away from the king's study. Since February 14th, they have not appeared together outside palace walls. 2 people, united in duty, divided in personal space. They are no longer halves of a shared love story, said a former palace chef. Some speculate the damage may be permanent. Others argue that time and a shared commitment to duty could slowly restore their bond. Yet in the wake of this unprecedented purge, one truth remains. The monarchy has drawn lines, enforced them, and Charles has made clear, when the institution calls, loyalty and order take precedence over personal sentiment. The Queen moves as though trapped beneath an invisible pane of glass, her every motion observed, every word calculated with meticulous care. Camilla now navigates her life as both sovereign and mother, caught in an impossible tension between personal love and institutional duty. She dares not fight openly for her children, knowing that a public gesture of defiance would not only jeopardize her own standing, but could destabilize the monarchy itself. Her silence is far from weakness. It is a deliberate, excruciating act of sacrifice. She has either chosen or been forced to choose the monarchy over motherhood, and in doing so, she has revealed a brutal, enduring truth at the heart of the British royal institution. To wear the crown, one must endure private wounds that the world will never see. Through the echoing halls of Clarence House, Camilla walks alone, carrying grief and resolve in equal measure. Tears may fall, but never in public, because the monarchy does not forgive visible emotion. It punishes it. For 20 years, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes benefited from the gravitational pull of royal privilege, despite holding no blood right, no formal titles, and no official office. They dined at palace tables, vacationed in grace-filled royal estates, and lingered within whispering distance of the throne itself. But in the cold of February 2026, they stand utterly alone, stripped of access, protection, and influence. This was not the result of scandal, legal judgment, or public backlash, but of a silent, sovereign decree that carried weight far beyond any courtroom. There was no trial, no public statement, only consequences. And in that vacuum, Tom and Laura have been left to navigate their sudden fall from grace in real time. The immediate repercussions were brutal. On February 20th, Tom was scheduled to attend the launch dinner of a culinary arts scholarship in Soho. He did not appear. All future bookings under his name were cancelled, and 3 major food column sponsors reportedly paused their partnerships indefinitely. Laura's gallery, once praised for its curated connection to British tradition, found its inbox flooded with protest emails and demands for disassociation. Foreign investors, previously aligned with her spring exhibitions, withdrew support almost immediately. Both siblings vanished from public life. Sources confirmed Tom had retreated to a modest countryside estate in Wiltshire, a property inherited from a family godfather and entirely disconnected from the royal portfolio. He lives with minimal staff, avoiding all contact with royal circles. Laura, meanwhile, now resides in a private flat in Notting Hill, rarely appearing in public. Her once bustling social calendar, a blur of receptions, museum events, and gala openings, has gone completely blank. They have been erased, not just from royal life, but from the ecosystem of influence they once depended on. The financial blow has been equally devastating. Though never formally on the civil list, both benefited from discretionary royal funds linked to Camilla's budget. This included security for public events, travel reimbursements for engagements conducted under her name, PR support, and staffing assistance during appearances connected to the Royal Foundation. All of this support is now gone. Estimates from royal finance trackers suggest that Tom could lose up to £180,000 annually in indirect support, while Laura faces potential losses of £120,000. Their previously comfortable lifestyles are now under significant pressure. They are not destitute, but the prestige economy they once thrived in has collapsed entirely. The media's response has been immediate and merciless. Tabloids labelled them the freeloading pair, while op-eds called them symbols of unearned entitlement. Social media has been unforgiving, with hashtags like #GoodRiddanceTom and #LoyaltyToCatherine surging on TikTok, X, and Instagram. Edited clips from their February 16th interview were remixed into viral parodies, one alone surpassing 12 million views, mocking Laura's mannequin comment. The intensity of the backlash forced Tom to deactivate his public accounts and Laura to take her official website offline. They were never trained for this level of public scrutiny. They borrowed influence, never earned it, a former publicist remarked. Now, having defaulted under its weight, they are forced to confront the stark reality of abandonment. Perhaps the cruelest blow is the silence of their mother. Camilla, pressured to preserve her own position, has not defended her children, publicly or privately. Sources close to the siblings describe their feelings as acute betrayal, particularly for Laura, who once considered herself her mother's emotional twin. The structure of royal loyalty leaves no room for divided allegiances. Any gesture of sympathy would be interpreted as insubordination. Tom and Laura are left to fall alone, navigating an unfamiliar and unforgiving public stage without the buffers they once relied upon. The grey fog blankets Buckingham Palace, carrying the final breath of a storm that shook the monarchy from within. In the aftermath, one clear message emerges. The era of blurred family privilege is over. The House of Windsor, long battered by external scandals and internal fractures, has drawn its lines in stone. For King Charles, the emotional toll is profound. He severed ties with 2 individuals he once welcomed into his inner circle, not merely for the love of Camilla, but for the illusion of blended harmony. By prioritising the crown over personal sentiment, he has achieved what even Elizabeth II hesitated to enforce in her later years, excising all elements, blood or not, that compromise the clarity of succession. It was never about revenge, noted Sir Malcolm Starbridge, senior aide to the Lord Chamberlain. It was about integrity, and integrity demands sacrifice in the royal ecosystem. The equilibrium has been restored. William and Catherine, who have long endured indirect criticism from those riding coattails of legitimacy, now find the air around them purified. No shadow siblings, no whispers of rivalry, only the heir, the princess, and their path forward. This quiet purge signals a defining shift in how the monarchy governs both its image and internal structure. In the post-Elizabethan era, proximity no longer equates to privilege. Sentiment or media access cannot grant influence. Charles' actions over the past months, the seizure of Andrew's properties, the final cut-off of Harry and Meghan, and now the removal of Tom and Laura, have fundamentally redefined the monarchy's boundaries. Internal memos leaked from the royal household detail the institutional intent. Eliminate non-essential figures from ceremonial roles, reinforce the authority of the direct line, Charles, William, George, and restore public confidence through visible discipline and consistency. This doctrine, insiders say, reflects a brutal but necessary truth. Survival in the modern monarchy depends on control, not compassion. With every figure removed, William and Catherine rise higher, unchallenged, unblemished, untouchable. Polls taken by Ipsos UK and the Evening Standard reveal unprecedented favourability. Catherine's rating now at 83%, the highest for any royal since Elizabeth II in 2012. William is heralded as the most prepared heir in modern history. Their children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, are shielded from chaos, their futures secured not merely by blood, but by the sovereign's decisive action. Tom Parker Bowles now wanders the Wiltshire countryside, invisible and forgotten. Laura Lopes draws blinds in Notting Hill, retreating from a public life that once embraced her. Their chapter closes without fanfare or footnote. No royal biographer will chronicle their legacies. No portraits will hang in ceremonial halls. Their names will vanish from programme indexes, invitations, and memory itself, a punishment perhaps more painful than public ridicule, to be forgotten by the very institution they believe to belong to. The monarchy emerging from this reckoning is harder, leaner, sharper, uncompromising. Buffer zones erased, stepchildren removed, celebrity courtiers sidelined. A single glowing centre radiates from the Wales household, protected by a monarch willing to cut to the bone. The crown is not gold, one aide whispered. It is ice. After decades of bending, Charles has broken what needed breaking. The crown endures, colder than ever, but safer. The palace staff, from footmen to private secretaries, have quietly remarked on the shift in atmosphere. Morning briefings are now crisp, efficient, stripped of distractions. Public appearances are executed with precision, ceremonial duties observed without error. Even the smallest gestures, the angle of a hand, the cadence of a bow, are measured for effect. For the first time in decades, the monarchy projects a sense of unyielding, disciplined authority. Public sentiment mirrors this shift. Editorials celebrate the Windsor reset as a restoration of dignity. Social media trends praise Catherine and William for poise, emphasising that their leadership is now unchallenged and pure. Analysts note that the monarchy's image has never appeared more disciplined or coherent. Historians predict that this period will be remembered as a turning point, the moment when personal loyalty and sentiment were subordinated entirely to the institution itself. And yet, behind the polished veneer, human costs remain. Camilla's quiet anguish, Tom and Laura's isolation, and the emotional labour demanded of Charles and William are profound. The monarchy's survival has come at a personal price, a price paid in silence, in private tears, in unseen sacrifice. This is the real, hidden work of kings and queens. To maintain the crown's authority at all costs, even when that authority comes at the expense of family, affection, and the familiar comforts of love. In the end, the lesson is clear. Survival, clarity, and authority in the modern monarchy demand both strategic ruthlessness and personal endurance. The crown is a structure built on discipline, not sentiment, and every action taken by Charles in recent months reinforces that unflinching reality. The era of blurred lines, of inherited access without merit, is over. From this point forward, the monarchy will be leaner, sharper, and more resilient than ever before. For those who want to follow every intimate detail of this unfolding royal narrative, from silent purges to palace strategy sessions, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned as we continue to uncover the inside story of how the House of Windsor shapes power, legacy, and history in real time.